Question 54 is about negligence, which is very much related to imprudence, which was the one that we did previously with question 53. Very similar, and we're all familiar, most likely, with the word negligent. Negligent of duties, and it just means you don't really do what's necessary to prepare yourself to be able to make the right decision, or you're just not really taking everything into consideration. Kind of like the guy here, on his cell phone while he's driving, so he's being negligent of the rules of the road and that kind of thing. So I think negligence is something that we're pretty familiar with. There's only 3 articles in this question, so this one ought to be pretty quick. The first article says whether negligence is a special sin. Negligence denotes a lack of due solicitude. Now, I looked up solicitude, and it's earnest and diligent effort to achieve a purpose. Okay, earnest and diligent effort. Okay, so you're doing what needs to be done in order to make a right decision about things, and so negligence would just be the opposite of that. Now, every lack of a due act is sinful, wherefore it is evident that negligence is a sin, that it must needs have the character of a special sin, according as solicitude is the act of a special virtue. For certain sins are special through being about a special matter, as lust is about sexual matters, while some vices are special on account of their having a special kind of act which extends to all kinds of matter, and such are all vices affecting the act of reason, since every act of reason extends to any kind of moral matter. Right? Remember, any moral virtue, any moral decision is going to require a moral virtue and then also an intellectual virtue of prudence that has to come in and counsel and judge and command the right decision to be made. Since then, solicitude is a special act of reason, it follows that negligence, which denotes lack of solicitude, is a special sin. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Number 2 are whether negligence is opposed to prudence. Well, it is because it's in this section on prudence, right? Negligence is directly opposed to solicitude, as we learned in the previous article. Now, solicitude pertains to the reason and rectitude of solicitude to prudence. Hence, on the other hand, negligence pertains to imprudence. This appears from its very nature because, as Isidore observes, a negligent man is one who fails to choose, and the right choice of the means belongs to prudence. Therefore, negligence pertains to imprudence. All right, so it would be opposed to prudence. Article 3, whether negligence can be a mortal sin. He says negligence arises out of a certain remissness of the will, the result being a lack of solicitude on the part of reason in commanding what it should command, or as it should command. Accordingly, negligence may happen to be a mortal sin in 2 ways. First, on the part of that which is omitted through negligence. If this be either an act or a circumstance necessary for salvation, it will be a mortal sin. Secondly, on the part of the cause. For if the will be so remiss about divine things as to fall away altogether from the charity of God, such negligence is a mortal sin, and in this case is chiefly when negligence is due to contempt. Okay, so again, there's a lot of things you have to consider with moral actions and how we judge them. But so if it is contempt, or if it's something that pertains to the salvation of our soul and eternal salvation, then it's going to fall into the category of moral sin. Well, that's going to do it for question 54. Thanks for joining me as we journey through the Summa Theologia. And remember, it's all based on the human person. Okay, I think the entire Summa was written for human persons. It's about human persons. Okay, I recently read that Saint Pope John Paul II said something along the lines of nobody understood the human person better than St. Thomas Aquinas, and I tend to agree. It's so thorough, and he covers every single aspect of human nature and passions and intellect and will and reason, everything, that this is really a great way to come to know not only yourself, but also your fellow human beings as well in your life. All right, thank you. God bless you.